All right, give me 1 second. Let me see if this is working.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
there we go.
Yo, can you hear me?
Amazing. Hello.
Hey, what's up, Imhotep?
Nothing much. It's been a very long time.
Yeah,
Uh,
for
what
sure,
was
for
that? That
sure.
was that Mike was in some art show.
Yeah, yeah. Downtown Houston, there's that old Forever 21
Yeah, yeah.
building. That yeah, what was the I think Collective for the Culture? It was
Uh,
either Collective for
maybe
the
so.
Culture or something other like that. I know like Robert Hodge was I think he helped organize it. So
Yeah. Is that, so what? Did you come because you knew Mike, or you knew some of the artists that were in there?
so I knew Mike kind of. I had run into him a couple times. I knew Benji Styles was in the show, and I know him pretty well. We're good friends.
Right there.
So I kind of went for Benji, and then I saw that Mike was in the show, and then a bunch of other people as well. And it's funny thinking about that show. There are a lot of people in that show I didn't know until that show,
Yeah,
like
same.
Preston Gaines,
Oh yeah,
I
Preston. He's
think
cool.
who else? Oh, Veronica. Yeah, it was a phenomenal show. So yeah, and that was a while ago.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't really know anyone, and it was just by chance. Like you pulled up. I only knew Mike, because I was sharing a studio space. Oh, can you hear me?
All right, having some Wi-Fi issues.
Oh man, yeah. This is always happening. It's haunting me. Am I good? Okay, we're back. I don't know if you're back. All right, there we go.
Yo.
All right, so
All
where
right,
can
cool.
we,
I know my Wi-Fi here is pretty spotty.
dude? Same. we're gonna roll with the punches though.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I just rolled in because I knew Mike was gonna be over there,
Yeah,
and
dude,
uh,
that's what you got to do. Yeah.
oh, yeah, it's really going slow. All right, we good now?
Kind of. I think it seems okay.
Yeah, yeah. All right, we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
So,
It's
you're
life
a
these
full
days.
time artist as well, no?
So no, and even in Houston, you pretty much usually have like a day job. Um, and actually I just started grad school, so now I am
Oh,
a
sick.
full-time student, which it's art school, so basically full-time art student, so kind of the same thing. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm up here. I'm going to Alfred University. It's in Alfred, New York, which is kind of on the west side of the state. Are you
Okay.
in New York as well? Whereabouts are
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah. I'm in New York right now.
Yeah.
I'm
The
in Bushwick.
okay. So you're in the city. So
Yeah,
you're getting
yeah.
on the good shit. Yeah. So what are you doing up there?
So really, I just kind of live here right now. I came out
Okay,
here for
nice.
work because yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I graduated in May of last year,
Hmm.
and I like sent out a bunch of applications over
Hmm.
here because I know there's more design related work. And
Hmm.
I got a bite from this one guy who makes like resin stuff, and I was basically gonna be like fabricating for him.
Hmm.
But I ended up getting another offer from a guy in Hawaii, and now we're making like furniture pieces, but we're kind of like in different time zones, and I just live
Okay.
here.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you're doing like design work for him?
Yeah. We're
Dude.
working on like furniture set and
Mhm.
some other kind of auxiliary stuff. We're basically starting up a design studio. It's just like me, him, and we contract some other people to kind of help us out.
Dude, that sounds amazing, man. And you're
Yeah,
living in Brooklyn, so like
yeah,
there you go. That's like the dream.
yeah. It's amazing right now, but
Hell yeah.
it's real stressful too. But
I
you
yeah,
know,
I bet. Yeah. That New York life, it does that. Yeah.
oh yeah. But what's it like on that side in the grad school? I've been thinking about going to
It's
grad school, but I don't
it's
know.
yeah, I mean, the town that I'm in here is super small. So it's like, I mean, exactly the opposite experience of New York than like being in the city. Like literally it's a town of like a couple thousand people, super rural. But yeah, school's here and schools classes start like in a week. So we
Oh
just have
shit.
like orientation and shit. Um, but it's like I'm pretty stoked about it. I know for me, I want to get the master's so that I can teach in college.
Oh yeah.
Um, and also just, continue to get better at art making and painting and you know all sorts of stuff like that and network and whatnot. So
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
I kind of I fantasize a lot about living outside of the city because
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I've been introduced to the fact that I am not a city person. Like
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah. And
yeah,
like
it's
like
like
New York City is the most city like
oh yeah,
possible. Like that
it's
that's
crazy.
crazy. Yeah.
I'm like running into how networky it can kind of be, and like
Yeah.
I'm not
Mhm.
really in a place where I care too much about the connections I make, so long as
Mhm.
like if we're not like making things like one
Mhm.
to one,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
like just for shit's sake, just for
Uh-huh.
fun,
Yeah.
then I'm not really too interested in networking. And a lot of people can kind of be like there's like almost networking and friendship has like this like very small gray area,
Uh-huh.
or a big gray area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has a huge gray area, so you kind of don't know
Right.
who or
Right.
for what purpose they're trying to, and it's like
Yeah. Yeah. That
I'm
that
like,
seems
damn, I need a rocking chair out in the country with like four people, so I can just be a hermit.
I mean, yeah, it's like I feel like that New York sort of like vibe is like everyone's there for a reason and everyone
Yes,
they know, it's like what can I get out of you? Like sure we can be
yes,
friends, but like
yeah.
what do I get out of it? Where I'm at here, it's like, there's so few people. It's like, oh shit, like you're a grad student too. Cool, let's be friends. Like, doesn't matter. I just need someone to talk to.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's different. So yeah, what's how has it been like how do you compare New York and Houston? What's it been like going from Houston to New York?
Oh man, it's been a huge contrast. I
Oh, I
feel
bet.
like
Yeah.
it's easy to kind of you know think about those like smaller contrasts that are like a little bit, or the contrasts that are easier to spot, like of course the temperature difference. There's like sort of very low key mannerisms. Oh, yeah, you kind of froze. Make sure you can still hear me. Can you hear me? I'll wait for you to catch up. All right, you there?
Yeah, maybe give it a second. You were kind of coming in and out. I
Okay,
think
how
it's good
about
now.
now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Okay, cool. I think we're good.
All right, so but yeah, there's like the little things like the mannerisms between like I don't know. I guess the biggest factor is just the way people respond to other people because of like density and like
Yeah.
also
Mhm.
access to nature. I feel like those are the two
Oh,
biggest things that influence like so fucking much.
yes, yes. And I don't know, it's weird. I mean, density huge because Houston, so spread out,
Yeah.
massive city, but like not dense. And also like our connection with nature there is weird. because we got like bayous and like that's
Yeah,
it. And then I
yeah,
guess New York's like kind of similar. Like there's like Central Park. There's like decent parks, but it's also like you're in the city, so it's
yeah. It's
kind of typical
very
kind of thing.
city. Like, I mean, and the
Yeah.
suburbs is like I guess far out in Queens or like somewhere in New Jersey.
Mm,
It's not really like if you're in Brooklyn or
mm,
like Manhattan, like you're not gonna have a
mm.
lawn, and that's like
Right. Right. Oh, for sure.
it's like that kind of changes social dynamics a little because like block parties and like stoops and
Hmm.
how people navigate around those things or like
Oh,
even
yeah. Yeah.
transportation like
Hmm.
people in Houston
Hmm.
they're always in their car, no one's walking,
Right.
no one's on the
Right.
bus,
Uh-huh.
everyone's on the bus, everyone's on the train out
Mm,
here, so like everyone's always interacting with people and like I don't know, you can
mhm.
always tell when someone's not from here based on like where they talk to people and where they allow those like
Uh-huh.
public personal zones to be. It's just like
Yeah.
it's a real interesting thing.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
being here,
Yeah.
my favorite difference is just like the seasons, the difference in
Uh-huh.
seasons, because it's just like it's a real romantic thing, you know.
Wait, say that again.
Like the feeling the difference in seasons is like a real romantic things in terms of like inspiration for like oh you
Oh no,
froze.
it's freezing again. I
Yeah,
Nope.
it's been
I think
terrible
everything.
recently. Let's see if I can
Hmm.
connect to a different one. Oh, it wants me to type in the password. I don't have it. All right, how are we now?
All right. Oh, you're back.
All right. Hopefully that's the last time that's gonna happen. All right, can you hear me? You good?
All right, you kind of here. All right.
You good now? Thumbs up. I'm gonna switch the Wi-Fi. This one is non-cooperative.
Uh, a little bit. Still, the screen's frozen.
Yeah, same for me. Let's
I
see,
can't. I don't know.
I'm gonna
Yeah, I
switch
can't
over to
really
the other
hear
Wi-Fi and see if that can fix this issue. Give me one sec.
you. Hello.
Are we good?
All right. Yes. For now.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All
Let me
right.
not celebrate too early.
Okay. You were saying the thing you like about New York. I feel like you were saying the seasons, but I couldn't really hear
Yes,
you. Is it the seasons? Okay.
it's
Yeah.
definitely the seasons
Okay.
because like
Hell
there are
yeah.
none in Houston, and I can
Absolutely not. Right.
see
Right.
what like every culture
Hmm.
bases all of their beliefs and like
Yeah.
poetry, things of art is
Mm-hmm.
like very has a strong foundation in the seasons,
Yes.
And I'm like,
Oh.
oh, this
Hmm.
is why everyone hates winter. Kind of
Right. Right. Right.
why
Right.
everyone loves spring.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Are you originally from Houston?
So I've always been on like the southern coast, but
Okay.
I jumped around a lot.
Mhm.
Spent the most time in Fort Lauderdale, and
Okay.
then I just basically grew up
Mm.
in Houston.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. So yeah, because I'm originally from Ohio, where we have seasons, and so
Oh
like
shit!
coming to Houston, it was like, yeah, it was just weird, and I was like, oh, it gets, it's super hot, and then it gets kind of like cold and rainy, and I was like, but nothing changes, and yeah, it's like being in New York, honestly, yeah, just moved up here. I'm super excited for the fall. Like I
Oh
can't wait
shit!
for the leaves to change and leaves to fall because I haven't like experienced that in like 6 or 7 years. And so yeah, the seasons, I totally get it. I totally get it. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited for you. I've
Thank
been
you. Yeah.
now that I know what it's like. Now I'm
Yeah.
itching for it too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And it's just like, I mean, I always kind of joked that like if I don't have the seasons, I'm not reminded that the year is like going by and I'm getting older, and like it
Yes.
reminds me that I'm gonna die. So like there were seasons are important. Like it's mortality there. So yeah. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Even in that cycle, it's like a metaphor for like lifespan, you
Yeah.
know?
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
Winter
Absolutely. Yeah.
being that.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I could go on about that shit forever,
No,
but
for sure. And yeah, and even just like you were saying, like so many, like so many cultures have stuff based off of the seasons, and a lot of prehistoric cultures didn't have calendars like we have, but they knew the seasons. They like followed everything not by like the day or the date, but like by, oh yeah, the leaves are falling, or like the flowers are blooming, they know. And it's,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's something we just like understand. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then there were like, I don't know. I've recently become really, because of that, I've become interested in like routines
Hmm.
and things like that. Cause like
Hmm.
I feel like as humans, like routines and just the thing that you do, like the annual things, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like being able to ground yourself
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
like milestones throughout the year, or
Hmm.
like having those things that ground community, or
Right.
even like on an individual level, the things that you do
Yeah.
uh, kind of periodically is like really
Hmm.
important,
Hmm.
and it helps you have some type of meaning in life, you know. You get
Yeah.
kind of lost in the sauce if you just like just kind of
For sure.
keep
For
going, you know.
sure. Yeah, I totally agree. Do you have any like personal yearly things you do that like you that come to mind? Because it's funny when you say that there's a couple things I do every fall. So I'm curious if you have any like personal things you always do every year.
I actually don't have any. I'm trying to. This is why I'm doing this,
Hmm.
and this is
Hmm.
why I do the sleep videos.
Hmm.
Is to
Hmm.
basically just like make like a monthly thing, but I don't know, uprooting. I'm
Hmm.
kind of small community, you know, and I'm like
Yeah.
setting out the roots. So I'm
Hmm.
trying to like make things.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
What about you? What are your?
So
I might
the
steal them if you're okay with
It is cool,
that.
man. They're super like kind of I don't know about strange. They're kind of nerdy sort of things. Some of them. It's there are so in the fall when it's like I don't know, October, November, sometimes December, kind of depends. Um, I always like to watch two movies, and there are
Hell
two
yeah.
short stories that I read. The two movies I always watch is Dead Poet Society and Good Will Hunting, and then
Ooh,
the two
both good.
stories are Young Goodman Brown by Nathaniel Hawthorne and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
What was it?
And
Young Goodman Brown?
young Goodman Brown, yeah. It's and I don't I'm trying to remember. I don't know where that this all began, but I've been doing it for a while, and just all four of those things, the stories especially like very much relate to like fall, like Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Everyone knows that. It's like Halloween time stuff.
Yeah.
And the story itself is like you read that story and you feel like you're in New England in the fall, and it's amazing. And then yeah, I guess in those movies are just movies I love, and they both have Robin Williams, and they're super like weird and nostalgic for me, and so I just like always they just like kind of encapsulate the feeling of fall.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
I think that's like that what you're talking about
mhm,
is the shit that I think is so cool,
mhm.
like embodying like the feeling of a season before you get to that season.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
because then you can kind of like
mhm,
be at your best in that like transitional phase, you know, because like some
yeah,
you could always see people trying to hold on to the previous seasons,
right,
and I
right,
don't know,
right,
it allows you to
mhm.
kind of become anew, you know, for the next
Right, we're
thing.
right, yeah, yeah, and it's like those, you know, for me, like those books and movies do like exactly what like good art does, where it like
Uh,
puts you in a moment, and like in that case it's like like experiencing those books and those movies like kind of what's the word I'm looking for, they like reflect the season, they reflect what's going on in my life, and that's like what good art does, is it kind of like reflects experiences we have. And so
yeah.
for me, I just love enjoying those things, on a cold November night.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to really uh I'm gonna shoehorn it. I'm gonna
Yeah,
try and force something, and then
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
see what stays and what I'll
Absolutely,
change for the
absolutely.
next couple
Yeah,
years.
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and I don't know. It's just it's weird that those became like a weird ritual for me. But like you're saying, it's like you know, within like communities and groups and friends and family, like all those groups have their own sort of traditions, and that's another kind of a good thing that like getting together family every year, that's something
Yeah,
that
yeah.
do that for like holidays and whatnot. Like for me, that's definitely like, yep, it's this time of year again. So
Oh
yeah.
yeah, those milestone holidays.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what about you mentioned like good artwork and whatnot.
Hmm,
I
hmm,
see the work that you do,
hmm. Yeah.
and our styles are
Mhm.
kind of similar. Like
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of portraiture in like
Nice. Hmm,
the past, but
hmm.
I mean I also see you've been working on some interesting stuff now too.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's a constant sort of progression. Things always changing, and like, um, yeah, I guess. And the last like sort of 6 months have been weird moving out of Houston, so I wasn't making much art, but like always thinking about stuff and doing as much as I can. But yeah, recently I just got the studio here for school, so I was able to like put canvases back up, work on bigger
Oh yeah,
stuff. So getting back to that and just got a bunch of ideas and things I want to do. And at the same time, I've always, I guess, for the past like 5 years, I've been doing like portraits,
yeah.
in-person portraits or portraits from photos of people I meet. So like that's something I want to start doing again now that I'm back in the studio where I can actually work on these things. So yeah, I mean I feel like I've kind of been on a little bit of break from art making, and now I've got a studio again, so I'm like, yeah, ready
Nice.
to get back at it. So yeah.
What's the stuff that fuels the creative fire? Like
Man, yeah.
what are the concepts you're playing with? They're just inspirations.
Oh, there's so much, and I think it's funny because it's like I don't know a lot of times people ask like, "What's your inspiration?" And the idea of inspiration is such a weird thing. Where like for me, it's like like it's weird to say like everything, but like in a way, just like daily life can be an inspiration, and even like this conversation like is really cool and like pretty
Oh
inspiring.
yeah.
And so I get to take stuff from this and like it might not be conscious, but like this experience will you know feeds into the other stuff. And then also just yeah, I music, movies, books, I'm always absorbing as much of that as I can. um yeah, and then also have just a enormous like trove of like source material, like photos I've taken and
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
artwork and stuff. So like for me, it's I have so many ideas and so little time and like materials to make all of the things. So it's more of like trying to condense all the ideas into like whatever I'm working on, which
Oh
is
dude, yeah.
a struggle.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
definitely relate to that
Hmm.
because like I feel like you have the way like artists actually work and then
Hmm.
like the idea of like how
Yes.
artists should be, and
Yes.
like
Yeah.
whenever there's like a person who's outside of what it looks like or feels like to make stuff, they always
Mhm.
expect to have like a grounded answer in that, it's
Right.
like
Right.
super direct, something like maybe an 80-year-old man
Hmm.
who's been doing artwork for his whole life would
Hmm.
answer, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like earlier on, like it's just stuff floating down, like floating
Yeah.
around,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
then whatever kind of passes through like the filter of like your hands,
Right.
whatever it is the medium is, like
Right.
kind of
Uh-huh.
gets like captured. And the more you make shit, like
Yeah.
the more it starts to show like what that
Hmm.
focus or inspiration is,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
is like which is the cool shit. That's like understanding the unconscious and stuff
Hmm.
like that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I, what you're just saying really resonates with me. And it reminds me, I heard this quote recently. where did I don't even remember, it'll come to me later, but the quote was, you don't know what you think until you read what you write. And I thought that was
Ooh,
really interesting. And it's
yeah,
like you
that's
were
kind of sick.
saying, because it's like there's all these things like floating around. And I was kind of thinking, oh, you like grab them and you work with them, but it's more like they kind of you like kind of channel them through the medium. And then once they're in the artwork, it's like, even though you've decided to make it,
Yeah,
it like it's a little bit more than just like, you picking the thing and it becoming something else. It's like there's more into it. So it's like there's
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
a subconscious thing going on there, which I really dig. And I think that's, another exciting thing about art. um and why I feel compelled to just continuing to make more stuff is that I get to understand myself better, understand the
Ooh,
world
yeah.
better, relate to other people better. At least that's what it does for me. So yeah.
No, yeah, it's like real time dream interpretation kind
Yeah.
of, you know?
Yeah. Hmm.
Because like
Hmm.
you're like putting the shit out there and you're like, I like after it's done, you
Hmm.
can have like sort of a conversation with it by like asking yourself why this image kind of
Hmm.
came to
Hmm.
life in the way it did. You
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't know, there's a lot of ideas I have where it's like, I feel like I just need to make them and then see what it is and then figure out if it's like something worthwhile that, I really want to like kind of put out there, or if it's something that's like, oh, okay, it's a cool idea to make. I can,
know?
move on now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Kind of like the sketching out the ideas as they come.
Oh yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, with you, you're doing that design work. Are you like making your own stuff on the side as well? Like, do you have like a studio or anything? And then I know you're doing like yeah, like the sleep videos and like this sort of
Yeah.
stuff. Would you say like this is part of like your artistic practice, or is this like more
Oh yeah.
you just trying to, I don't know, do stuff?
Yeah. So like it's like uh, I so yeah, I don't have like a studio out here. Like
Hmm.
this is my
Yeah.
control
Yes.
operations center.
Yes.
You know,
Uh,
like for as far as design goes,
hmm.
I've I've started out as an artist
Hmm.
first,
Hmm.
and then I like design,
Hmm.
and then I went to school for design. So I had like more practice as an artist than a designer
Right.
entering school, and I've
Hmm.
always kind of kept that as like a way of thinking because
Hmm.
I feel like artists or designers tend to be like way too fucking stiff, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they don't know how to like go with the flow and like be
Hmm.
intuitive, you know?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
designers are always like, "Oh, we got to have the problem and like this and we have to
Right.
do it all this way, you know?"
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I've always been like, "Yeah, just feel it out, you know? Like what do you feel it should look like, you know? Like
Right. Right.
empathize with like whatever it needs to be."
Mhm.
And adding that into the practice has kind of made me feel I don't know. It offers an interesting perspective,
Mhm.
but I can't exercise that all the time in like my
Right.
career. So like
Mhm.
this is kind of is my artistic practice, and I
Mhm.
try and do a lot of shit like on the side, like a lot of
Nice.
shit.
Nice. Uh-huh.
So I'm not really confined to one medium,
Cool.
but
Mhm.
I like the idea of whatever I'm doing to be like a lived practice, to where
Nice.
like it's like an honest version of
Mhm.
performance art, you know?
Cool. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's
That
the direction I would like to see myself going.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And yeah, I get what you're saying. It like going into something like design, it's like you come from like a creative standpoint, where like other people come in from, I don't know, more of like a like engineering or like product
Yes.
based standpoint of like, oh, we need to like do this thing, where you're more like, okay, how could we do this thing? And I think, yeah, like in my experience, it was like I and as artists, there's always a problem, how do we pay bills? And so for me it's like I moved to Houston. I taught for 3 years. After I graduate school, I want to teach. So for me it was like I kind of first an artist, and then I added like the education thing. And I was like, holy
Yeah.
shit, like teaching for me like is kind of it's how I can pay the bills, but it also is like the thing I get to do that kind of is parallel to the like making of stuff is like the teaching of how to do that. So for me, that's been like a good sort of addition to the creative practice.
Oh yeah, and teaching is
Yeah.
like, I feel like I always say that like the best job or the most
Mm-hmm.
important job is
Mm-hmm.
teaching,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and everyone inevitably becomes a teacher.
Yeah.
Whenever they
Yeah.
get old and
Mm.
talk their shit to young people, you
Right. Right.
know.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. And it's like everyone. I don't know. People don't realize how like important it is, and how like it
Oh
it
yeah,
happens all the time. Like literally, conversations like this is a form of education.
yo yeah.
And yeah, yeah. But yeah.
Like I know all of my all of my favorite teachers. Like
Mm.
they've had such and I know all of my shitty teachers. You know, like
Yeah, yeah. It's the
yeah,
the average ones you forget about, but the really good ones,
yeah,
the really
yeah.
shitty ones, you remember them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean honestly speaking, both of them like or yeah, all the teachers, no matter how shitty, how
Mhm.
average or like how great, they
Yeah.
all have such a pivotal role in
Right.
like how you develop in like
Right.
whatever discipline or just
Uh-huh.
in life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. And yeah, it was fun during undergrad. I realized that a lot of my teachers, like, they weren't really teaching about art. They were just teaching about life. And I was like, that's
Oh
so dope.
hell
It's like
yeah.
that's what I want. And then
In what
yeah,
way?
the one example I love to use, and actually it's funny, it relates to the seasons. I had this
Oh hell
painting
yeah.
professor, and it was like springtime, like maybe like March, and he he was like, I don't know, we were like meeting for like a critique, but he just like comes in, he's like JJ, just go outside and just smell things. And I was like, what the fuck? Like that's so random. And that was like, I don't know if we talked about anything else. That's all I remember. But then I like thought about it and I did it. And I was like, that was amazing. Like
Dude,
that
yeah, that's
like
some
stuck
Yoda
with
shit.
me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, damn, dude. That was good. But it is, yeah, it's stuff like that. It's like, I don't know. And even yeah, that movie, I love watching Dead Poet Society. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's
No, yeah,
Robin,
I've seen.
yeah, Robin Williams, English teacher. And it's like that sort of stuff. He's like teaching like, how to be like a critical thinker and like an individual. And it's often with education, it's like the subject is really just an excuse for learning, and
Oh
so much
yeah.
learning goes way beyond the subject.
Yeah, yeah, you really can see the good teachers by like or so yeah, anyone who's good in whatever field it is,
Mm,
who teaches or who practices whatever, artist,
mm,
teacher,
mm,
whenever they can apply their skills to like or whenever they apply their life skills to whatever that medium is,
mm-hmm.
they just become like 50 times better, you
Oh
know?
yeah,
Because like
for sure.
it's that whole thing of like a lived practice,
Yes,
you know, and then
yes.
they have
Mm-hmm.
like metaphors
Mm-hmm.
that are like analogous with their discipline that they
Yeah.
use and the way they
Oh yeah.
talk, and it's like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's like listening to a monk speak about living, you know, but
Yes.
through whatever
Yes.
lens that they know the
Right,
most.
right. And it is a part of that is also kind of like breaking down like the boundaries we set up, and like the and
Oh
being like,
yeah.
oh, this is like, oh, this is school and this is art and this is life. And it's like, no, it's all the same thing. It's all our experience. And it's like we kind of put it into boxes, but I think the more you just kind of look at it and experience it as the whole continuous thing, then they all inform each other. And yeah, I mean, that's for me the best way that I've
That
figured out how to exist in this world.
yo, amen. And I mean
Mhm.
that changes the whole thing about what like work actually is, you know?
Right, right, right.
Because like
Mhm,
work stops being the thing that you do for however
mhm,
many hours a day, you know,
mhm,
and then you get to
mhm.
see it as like you know, you don't only work at work, you know. If you say I
Right.
hate work, like
Yeah.
you're talking about more than just that. Like
Mm.
work is just the effort put into I don't know, do stuff. I don't know. So
Yeah, yeah.
work could also be like trying to be a better person, you know?
Mm-hmm,
And if
mm-hmm,
if you allow work to kind of spread over in like a uh in kind of all of, if you allow it to be more than just like your 9 to 5 type shit,
Right.
then you can really kind of make your life feel a little bit more meaningful. And
Mm.
that's not like an excuse for capitalism to consume all
You're right.
aspects of life, but
Right.
I mean, taking a break and like sitting down and thinking is also like a form of work too, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's like both those things. It's like the work time and the rest time are both incredibly valuable. And also, yeah, kind of realizing like how to sort of flip that. You know, how do you not look at like the necessary work as, you know, like a hassle or as like a job, and the same with like the rest time. Like, how do you view that as something, you know, that you also sort of put effort into, even though it's like your off time. Yeah.
Yeah, that shit's
So
hard as fuck.
you're right.
Like
Right.
just recently, I have uh I've like fallen into like a slump for like
Okay.
my
Mm, mm.
whatever it is my personal like daily practices are for me to
Okay.
like be a better person. So like
Yeah. Mm.
I used to be very adamant about like writing my dreams down,
Nice.
meditating however
Yeah.
many minutes,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and um uh writing down like how my day was, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Cool. Cool. Cool.
And
Yeah.
now I have not been doing that at
Uh-huh.
all, you know? And it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm trying to find a way to give myself the respect of like
Yeah.
hopping back onto that without like
Mhm.
forcing myself, you know? And it's like
Right.
it's
Right.
that
Right.
I'm my own not to use too many working metaphors, but I'm my own employer, you know? And I'm
Right.
trying to like
Exactly.
come
Yeah.
on, man, like please.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So question with that, how do you feel that you haven't been doing those sort of daily things that you sort of set out to do?
Oh, at first I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, come
Yeah.
on, like I
Yeah.
need to do this.
Uh,
But
uh,
now I'm like, I'm gonna relax, you know. But
yeah.
but a
Yeah.
creeping thought in the back of my head is like,
Mm.
when are you gonna start again? You
Right.
know.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm
And it,
like,
it's funny. I think all of those things you said, I have kind of done them at some point in my life. And definitely, I know the one thing I've done like consistently for the most amount of time would be like writing down dreams, like having a dream
oh
journal,
yeah,
which I haven't done in a while. I'll do it every once in a while. And the same with like meditating and like journaling. Those are things for a while. I was like, I should be doing these all the time. But then I kind of got to the point of like, I don't necessarily need to. And then there's a thing I asked you how you felt about it, because it's like you like you don't want to beat yourself up over not doing those things, because you just like end up in a worse place. But it's also a thing of
yeah,
like, for me, knowing like it's good to do those, you know, a a little bit, you know. And so like every once in a while I'll have a dream, I'm like, I want to write this down. Every once in a while it's like, okay, you know, I want to journal what's going on in my life. Every once in a while I'll stop and meditate. um
yeah,
yeah, so it's a weird, you got to find that balance of like kind of like pushing yourself to like sort of be consistent and like do the things you want to do, while not like kind of beating yourself up for it, or like, you know, getting some sort of like self-hatred for, you know,
yeah, yeah,
failing your goals or whatever. So you got to find that balance, you know.
yeah. Yeah, I've seen some stuff where it's like consistency isn't always, you know, that like, you know, everyday type thing.
Mm, mm.
It's like twice a week or
Yeah.
like maybe
Yeah.
once a week, you know. And
Right.
consistency can look a
Yeah.
lot different than like what
Mm,
people think it is, you know. And
for
I'm trying to
sure.
like graft that into my brain.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think a big idea of that is like, you know, consistency.
All right, there we go.
Cool. Back end. Back end. Nice.
Sweet.
It cut me off. I was like, damn, out of time. What the hell?
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm gonna have to pay for this. The
No
way things are
shit.
going.
Oh man. Well, I don't want to make you pay for this.
No, no. I mean, this is it always cuts off during the conversations, and people are like, "What
Yeah.
were you saying?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, um, I don't know. I can't remember. We were talking about that consistency thing, but I don't know. I was curious, how are these talks going? Have you done them
Oh,
like with other people? And like, yeah, actually, I guess, how are they going? And can you tell me I don't know, like why you wanted to do these?
oh yeah, I have a whole like lore behind it. So hopefully,
Cool. Mm.
I've only explained it like 4 times,
Uh-huh.
like or maybe like 6 times ever, four
Hmm.
times on these calls.
Uh-huh.
This is the fourth round, if I'm
Hmm.
correct, the third or fourth round,
Hmm.
and basically the whole idea came from like uh, it came from my relationship with like social media,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I was feeling like social media has become this thing where everyone's so far away from their like actual representation of themselves,
Hmm.
and it's become this artificial place where people posture
Hmm.
and everyone's their like own marketing person,
Yeah.
and no matter how hard you try to be
Hmm.
as genuine and as one to one as possible,
Hmm.
you're still selecting a couple screenshots of your life to show
Right.
everyone.
Right.
And you can show the worst things, or
Hmm.
you can show the best things, or you can show the most mediocre things, but
Hmm.
it'll never be like a very true exposure of like what
Hmm.
life is actually like.
Right.
And
Hmm.
I found myself trying to like get to that. So I cut myself off at one point, and I was just
Hmm.
like, I'm just gonna get completely off
Hmm.
of the social media, internet usage. And I had a little blog, and I was gonna get off of that too, because I was like, any representation of my
Uh-huh.
personal self online is
Hmm.
gonna be completely inaccurate.
Yeah.
So after doing that for like 4 months, I was like, all right, existing outside of this isn't going to do anything at all. And if
True.
anything, it
Hmm.
makes my life a little harder,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
so I had the idea to jump back on and just use it with a specific goal of
Hmm.
like using it as a tool for my artwork. But then I didn't like that idea too much, and I
Hmm.
was I was thinking a lot about basically how community exists online and
Hmm.
outside of the internet,
Hmm.
and basically a lot of ideas kind of surrounding postmodernism and how that interacts with the internet, and
Hmm.
how that interacts with like late capitalism and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And the solution I came up with was basically, or solution, the my form of like, I don't want to call it protest, but my
Hmm.
response to the way the internet kind of
Yeah.
functions now in this like
Hmm.
weird markety way
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
to focus a lot on mundane things
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
sleeping,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
random conversations with people who
Hmm.
like a
Hmm.
post
Hmm.
on my Instagram page,
Right.
and blogging, like
Hmm.
being extremely honest,
Okay.
and all of these things, to kind of like
Hmm. Hmm.
create a new way to interface with like online spaces,
Hmm.
or not a
Hmm.
new way, but a more intentional one-to-one kind of way.
Yeah.
And that's basically the practice that I'm exploring right
Hmm.
now,
Hmm.
and it's following like ideas that come from sociological like paradigm kind of
Hmm.
thing, and
Hmm.
it's called like, it's either postmodernism or
Hmm.
like metamodernism, this
Yeah.
the stuff
Yeah.
that comes after
Hmm.
postmodernism.
Hmm.
And it's all about just like creating meaning,
Yeah.
and figuring out what that looks like in the way we navigate the world
Hmm.
now. And
Hmm.
so a lot of that comes from just community,
Yeah. Yeah.
and being transparent
Uh-huh.
and accepting where things are as they are.
Yeah.
And this is just my attempt to
Hmm.
keep it fresh in my mind, until I
Yeah.
have a better idea.
Yeah. No, that's fucking awesome. Like I love that, because it is like, it's frustrating with, social media and like specifically Instagram. Like it's literally made for you to just, like and scroll and like and just do that like endlessly, and not, yeah, it's like you're liking that image, which is, such a small fragment, and probably misrepresents the individual that you're seeing. And so and it's so good at doing that too, that so many
Yeah.
people love that shit. But it's like, how do you sort of like subvert that, and like kind of, yeah, like get behind, they've made it for this thing, how do you sort of use it for something else? Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like that.
And that kind of goes for all, I don't know, all interactions with the internet. I think it
Mhm,
needs to, because since like the influencer was born, like the
mhm,
way
mhm.
people interact with the internet has gotten like fucked, and now it's like a
Yeah.
thing of like you make money off of social media, and
Mhm, mhm.
everyone's trying to monetize like their life,
Yeah.
and it's like
Right.
you can become super successful at that, or
Yeah.
successful in general, and
Mhm,
display
mhm.
that, but you crawl into your bed and then you think about dying, and you're like,
Yeah.
damn, like this shit sucks. Like I'm not happy. Like what
Right.
am I even doing? Like I
Exactly.
don't like doing this. And then
Yeah.
I feel like all of these online spaces should
Mhm.
just be means for allowing people to connect on the outside. And there's
Yeah.
plenty of
Mhm,
products that kind of
mhm,
exist like that, but
mhm.
to make it to make social media that thing at like a, just on a surface level, or like, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the
Mhm,
people that I know and I'm surrounded by, like,
mhm.
if we can use this as a means to build like
Mhm.
actual strong communities,
Right.
and it could be big or small, but just
Mhm.
for people to know that, I don't know, they can be understood. Like,
Yeah.
it's destroyed the art
Mhm, mhm,
community, I feel.
mhm.
Uh,
Yeah. 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 No, and I'm curious, like because yeah, I think social media, it kind of the on the opposite ends. It's like, on the one hand, it does very much like polarize people and objectify people and separate people, like in like to an insane amount. But on the other hand, it's like, like us having this conversation like through social
yeah,
media, and like the possibility that it has, and kind of what, how social media, how the internet was started, was like a very communal idea. But then, of
yeah.
course, being within the framework of capitalism, it's like, okay, now we got to make money off of it, is what happens. But it's again, I don't know, it's kind of you have those two sort of opposite ends of what
Yeah.
this stuff is capable of. And so it is kind of cool to very purposefully be like, okay, I'm going to use this tool for this sort of communal interactive thing, which, yeah, is again not, I'd say a small fraction of people use it for that. um,
It leaves a
but yeah.
huge question mark.
Mhm.
It's like how can people come back
Mhm.
from where we are now?
Yeah.
Where it's like very
Mhm.
like capital based, like
Mhm. Mhm.
everyone's trying to make their dollar, pay their
Right.
bills, all of
Right.
that. And the more means to do that, the better.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
don't monetize yourself. Don't
Mhm.
become a
Yeah.
business
Mhm.
yourself,
Mhm.
like you are
Yeah.
more than a product,
Mhm.
more than
Mhm.
something to be consumed.
Mhm.
How do you escape that without taking a blow to your wallet?
Right.
And it's like
Right.
we're in a weird ass place.
For sure, for sure. And especially just like the like, I feel like this day and age, it's like like there's so many ways, and like so many cool things people doing, like small businesses or like DIY, and like people really wanting to support these things, because I feel like a lot of people kind of understand, like, okay, we don't like Amazon and Google and these sort of shit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
even though we're all still, you know, kind of connected to these things, but it's like we want to try to work around them and like without them. And so it is, yeah, it's a weird thing of, yeah, like how, and especially, as an artist, and for me, as a person who makes a lot of paintings and makes a lot of objects that can be sold, I'm like, I hate that, because I don't like, that's not why I do it. And like, sure, I could like kind of try to follow a path where like that's what I do, is make paintings and sell them, and that's how I live. And like, I mean, that could be cool, but it's also like, I don't like that system. Like, and it's so ingrained in art these days that it's hard to get out of it. And it's I love this stuff that you're doing, and I'm trying to figure out like how, I don't know how, I could sort of take the painting I do and get it more into a place like this, where it's less about an object on a wall and more about like how we interact with the object or how we
Ooh,
interact with each
yeah,
other. So it's like
yeah.
that's sort of, I want to get there, and I don't know how, but I'm
Yeah,
working on
no,
it.
like there's a lot of interesting conversations
Mm,
in what you said there, because like a lot of my gripe with where things
mm,
are now with like
mm,
commodifying anything that's produced is that
mm,
sometimes it becomes just that, like the
mm,
essence of whatever is made is kind of just like
mm,
flattened for the,
mm.
the means of making money off of it, and it's like
Yeah, yeah.
how do you add value to something
Hmm.
that's outside of just like monetary value,
Right.
like how do you saturate something with like cultural value, and,
Hmm.
and culture being something like
Hmm.
the buddies that you hang around with, or like the
Yeah,
community
yeah.
that surrounds the
Hmm.
piece that you're
Hmm.
working on. A
Hmm.
really cool thing that I was able to kind of witness, and it was on this same like uh, kind of like thought was
Hmm.
there was this artist
Hmm.
Brian Giles. I don't know if I'm
Okay.
pronouncing that right, but he
Okay.
had like this little thing out here where
Hmm.
he invited everyone to this gallery to like sketch while he
Hmm.
was like sketching a piece out, and it was
Hmm.
like an open Q&A, and everyone was
Hmm.
just having a conversation while
Hmm.
we were sketching.
Nice.
And inherently, like
Hmm.
that gives whatever pieces that he was working on more value, because like
Hmm.
in the to kind of graft that thing that we were talking about before, where the artist has like all the shit that they're thinking about, and then it kind of gets channeled into the piece of art. Like
Yeah.
the conversation that we were having in this huge room was doing that for
Hmm.
the piece, and
Yeah.
it's
Uh-huh.
like a photograph of that moment.
Hmm.
It has so much
Hmm.
culture in it,
Hmm.
conversation in it, and
Hmm.
stuff like that. I think is really interesting. Like, how can a two-dimensional piece
Hmm.
like make an experience?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think the most one idea, fat idea, is
Hmm.
like process being as valuable as the end result.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
an easy idea for that. I saw you were working on a piece.
Hmm.
You had that like I don't know if it was a time lapse or just a video. If you're
Hmm.
working with the projection,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like stuff like that is
Uh-huh.
valuable.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, just kind of filling in the in between
Hmm.
from like beginning to end, because like
Yeah.
it sort of gets mystified, and
Hmm.
sometimes I don't know. Whenever people can see that, I feel
Hmm.
like there's that begins a conversation of like what actually happens in between, and
Yeah.
maybe it
Yeah.
is what it is, or maybe it's like
Hmm.
maybe there's a process in there that you know taps into more than just
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
doing the piece. I don't know. There's a
Yeah.
lot of ideas there.
No, I love that. And you just gave me a great idea that I'll circle back to. Um, but yeah, it's like part of the, yeah, process has always been big for me. And, with that and with the artistic process, you run into like the huge myth of like the creative genius alone in his studio working on stuff, which
Yeah.
especially as a painter, it's like that's like the most problematic thing. Cause like we were talking about before, it's like people have all these ideas of creative people. Um, and that's very much not the reality, but people like to think of like Van Gogh and
Yeah.
Picasso and be like, oh yeah, like they just did it by themselves. It's like, no, they didn't. There were, there's so many other things going on, but it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
how to open up those processes and sort of invite people to become part of it, like you were saying with that
Yeah.
artist, sort of working on something with people around. um yeah, and then just kind of thinking about how to do that, and what's what would be like my sort of response to do that, which I think is a great idea. Yeah, and then like a lot of my sort of portrait making practice, I think is kind of the closest to this idea, because often it's done like in person, and
Oh hell yeah.
I do it over the course of like a couple hours. I paint the person while we're chatting, and it becomes the piece becomes sort of an artifact of that experience of like being with that person.
Yeah.
um and and so yeah, and it's like over the years I've realized more and more how important that is. um and yeah, it's like but it's also like the artwork is kind of uh like a side effect, and not it's
Yeah,
not like the most important thing about what happened. It's just, kind of a, leftover thing from it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah, and that's like the most important thing, because like
mhm,
people I feel like now have forgotten why like art is valuable, and they just
mhm.
know that art is valuable.
Right,
So like
right.
people people will like you can literally become a scammer just
Mhm.
based off of being an artist.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you have access to rich popular people,
Mhm.
like your work is already valuable. And it's like,
Pretty
whoa,
much.
like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
most valuable works, like if you
Mhm,
remove dollars from it,
mhm, mhm,
it's like it's the work that was just embedded with
mhm.
like culture, and it was
Yeah,
embedded with like big questions,
yeah. Uh-huh.
conversations,
Uh-huh.
like challenging ideas.
Mhm, mhm,
Maybe it's like a thing of value through
mhm.
time, like heirlooms,
Right.
stuff like that. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's like I feel like the best way to think about stuff in terms of artwork is like uh does how does the value exist in this object outside of monetary value,
Mhm, mhm,
or maybe like what are the other values that this
mhm,
object has
mhm.
aside or along with monetary value.
Right,
'Cause, I mean,
right.
that's an interesting conversation too, like
Yeah.
the monetary value alone, but I
Mm.
don't think that's the only thing, and that's what everyone's kind of become obsessed with like
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And that's sadly how people sort of understand art these days. And again, it's part of that sort of, I don't know, like if you think any sort of like art news that would like that people would know about, it'd be like a Basquiat sold for 50 million
yeah, how much
dollars,
did
and
it sell
people,
for?
exactly, people would be like, that shit's insane. And I guess I don't know if I heard about this. I feel like most people did. I guess when the Mona Lisa got hit by cake,
Oh
I
yeah,
feel like most
yeah,
people heard about that, which is that's kind of its own thing. But yeah, it's
yeah.
like that the monetary value. But I don't know. Yeah, it's funny because it's just like that is so unimportant to why we make art and what we care about, but it's what how most people understand art. Um, yeah, and that's just, I don't know. And yeah, and again, it's like, how do you sort of subvert that? How do you sort of like break that down and
Yeah,
get people to care about what the thing means as opposed to what it costs?
I feel like that's like the next big challenge for like all artists, because like
Mm,
that
mm,
that's what Picasso was. No, not Picasso. That's what
mm,
what's his Andy Warhol, like
mm,
that's the thing that he was pointing at. He
mm,
was like, we can meme this shit. Like I didn't even
mm.
make, like this is just mass produced.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you're
yeah.
buying it for like the
Mm,
price of like as if I hand painted it, or like Duchamp with like the
yeah.
toilet.
Oh
He's
yeah,
like,
yeah. Uh-huh.
it's art. And people
Right.
are like, oh, how much
Yeah,
could it be?
yeah,
And he's like, you just slap a price on it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like they were showing that like it's fucked.
Hmm,
Like
hmm. Yeah,
the
but
investors found it.
yeah, but the problem with that, like, those examples are both great. I love both those artists, but it's like they open like the biggest can of worms
Yes.
because, like, it like kind of, I don't know, it like backfired. Where it's like they were kind of pointing out how ridiculous it is, but then it's like, but people loved it and people still bought
Yes.
all the shit, and it just like, and kind of the stuff, the people who came after Duchamp and Warhol, and then the people who came after them, and the sort of, as it got more and more derivative from these people, it became less important and more expensive, but like people still bought it. But it's like those are both great artists who were very much sort of subverting the art business, but then it sort of kind of reinforced the art business, which was like, I
Yes.
feel like the sad truth of those things.
Yeah, and like that's when the Pandora's box was opened,
Right,
and like
right.
no one's really thinking about how,
Hmm,
or very few people are thinking about how do you close it
mhm,
uh, in general. You know, it
right.
seems like you can't, but
Yeah. Mhm,
I feel like you can. If you can exploit it, you can exploit it back into like
mhm,
a good place. You know,
mhm,
or
mhm,
because at the end of the day, like you can see the results
mhm,
of culture being the result of this stuff. You know,
mhm,
like
mhm,
its relation with finance and
mhm,
like business has like made I feel like that contributes to like the nihilism and
mhm.
like the whole like what's the point kind of attitude
Right.
and
Right.
because like no one knows why anything is popular. Like
Mhm,
there's nothing informing good art
mhm.
anymore. Like
Right. Right.
like it doesn't have to be grounded in something that came from community like
Mhm,
fashion for example.
mhm, mhm,
Like a lot of it is just like and this isn't any shade for like what exists. Like
mhm,
there's a new liberty now that
mhm,
couldn't have existed in the past without this like
mhm.
the toilet, you know, like after that it's like you can make literally anything and it
Right.
can be good, but it's like
Right.
I feel like we need to kind of see we need to do that thing where we're like reaching into our minds and
Mhm,
seeing like what it is and where it is these things are coming from and like
mhm,
trying to make community from that or uh trying to make communities and see
mhm,
what comes from that collective,
mhm,
you know,
mhm.
like uh I don't know if that's the right way, but like that's my speculation on
Nah,
how to
man,
close that box.
I dig it, and yeah, I think the yeah, the communal aspect, and then for me, like kind of realizing through like my artistic journey, art school, and then going to Houston and being at a studio space down there and meeting the Houston community, and now being up here, it's like
Mm,
finding those communities and sort of figuring out that like my way to sort of interact with these people and to like engage and also to like hopefully contribute and be a positive force within these communities is through like my artistic knowledge and my artistic making, and that's very much unrelated to the financial thing about it. But then yeah, it's a lot of artists are they're like, cool, I can make money off this. Yeah, I can do that. So yeah, like you said, yeah, rich people, cool, you're like halfway there to being a rich
yeah,
famous
yeah.
artist. So yeah, yeah.
I feel, and maybe, yeah, very open thought. I feel like
Mhm,
rich people are exploited in those ways. That like
mhm,
there's a really interesting episode of Atlanta, the most
mhm.
recent
Ooh,
season.
okay, yeah, which one? I think I'm all caught up. Which episode you
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about?
So it's the episode where it's this like there's this like black artist who's like
Mhm.
super young, who's like
Yes, yes.
working for this guy. Yeah,
Yeah, the
and
one they're at that like rich dude's house
yeah,
in like
yeah.
Amsterdam or whatever. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and the
yeah,
kid is like,
yes,
he's like totally scamming the guy
yep, yep,
who he's making work for, but like he's having that conversation with Donald Glover's character, and Donald
yeah,
Glover's like,
yeah,
I could be doing this too. He's like, what?
yeah,
Like, and once you can do that, but
hmm,
for like
hmm,
good,
yeah,
then like you're that's where you win against
yeah,
the establishment, you know,
hmm,
because
hmm,
you can kind of steer it. Like they're always getting exploited because I mean
right,
they're getting their gain, they're getting their
hmm,
work, you know, from
hmm,
you, but
hmm,
you can whoever the you is, you
right,
know, anyone who's listening to this who has like a
hmm,
you know a patron, you know,
hmm.
exploit your patron for the better.
Yes,
Don't be
exactly.
selfish with how you exploit them. Help
Yeah,
the people, you
I
know,
like that. I like it. Yeah, like
and then you're
scam
good.
people for good. Do good
Yes,
scamming.
yes.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And yeah, and I mean, like part of that is like, I don't know, the ideas we're talking about is like kind of like how to like subvert these systems, and like scamming can be a part of that, is like because you're subverting something, you're tricking people. And so it's like, how do you trick someone but like into good stuff, or like into doing good
Yeah,
things?
yeah. You
And
make culture from the scam.
yeah, yeah, and it it's again, so much is about knowing people, and just if you knew rich people, and yeah, I'd say probably most rich people want to be good people. So like, get find rich people, trick them into being even better than they think, and
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know,
They don't
yeah,
even
yeah.
know that they're building culture, but they are, you
Exactly,
know?
exactly, yeah, yeah. So now it's we gotta find rich people and figure out how to do this. So
Yo, amen.
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, I gotta break out.
Mhm.
But yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely,
refreshing.
for sure, for sure. Um, can I request something of you?
Oh, yo, amen.
It's basically, can we do this again? And while we're talking, I'll paint your portrait.
Whoa, of course.
Yeah,
Yo, I
okay.
mean, whatever time works for you works for
Yeah.
me, you know?
Well, probably the next, probably do this in the next like week or so. Honestly, yeah, we'll connect. But I do the portraits, and I think I've only done one like through Zoom, but
Oh
yeah, it was
shit.
cool. So I would love to basically do this, but I'll paint you while we're doing it.
No, amen. Yeah, we could
Yeah,
pick right back up.
yeah.
Next week,
Mm.
completely free.
Okay.
Just let me know and
Mm.
we could block it out.
Cool. Yeah, no, that sounds great.
Sweet. Nice talking to you,
Hell
man.
yeah. Yeah,
I'll catch you next
absolutely. I
week and
really enjoyed this. Yeah, yeah. We'll be in touch. Have a good one.
yeah. All right. See you around.